I hold in my hand a piece of paper that has really, really bad things written on it. But nope, it's not a 6th grade textbook with graffiti from prior classes. No, no, no. This is yesterday's box score between Northwestern and Nebraska. Northwestern ended up beating Nebraska 31-28. Now, someone, somewhere out there, stopped watching this game when it was 28-17 Nebraska. And all the momentum in this world was on the Big Red sideline. And then a Big Red disaster happened. How did it happen? You probably asked yourself as you saw the final score on your phone hours later. You say, what? How? How could they have possibly squandered that lead? Well, we told you how, and we didn't even need the benefit of having watched the game. Let's take you back to last Thursday night on a late kick. Let's bring the gray effect in on the video, Colin, roll it. Pretty much the whole season, but especially in the first few weeks, far more games are lost than they are won. And if you've watched this sport for any length of time, you know what week 0, week 1, the first couple of games of the year sometimes look like. Sometimes you watch a couple of teams and they're playing a game, as Jim Ross would say, that is bowling shoe ugly. And you almost think to yourself, it's a shame someone has to win this. It's just, here, you take it. No, you take it. He's 5-21. He's 5-21 in one possession games. So that stat speaks for itself. I don't really know what to tell you. I know a lot of you want some solace and you want to come to the show and feel better. Sometimes you're just in the abyss, as our buddy J.C. Sherbert would say. Sometimes you're just out there and you are a ship without a sail. And that's what it felt like. I know because I had an inundation of DMs from Nebraska yesterday. And I just sent frowny faces back to you. What else can I do? It's like we're at a funeral. It's like we're at a visitation. You just pat someone on the back and you say, I'm sorry for your loss. Period. There's no but. It just feels like you're kind of in the abyss right now. I know that I try and avoid the knee-jerk reaction on this show, and I'm going to avoid it here. I'm not going to do a segment tonight that says, that's it, the end, Scott Frost is out. But I feel what you guys feel, and that sense of, I guess you would call it inevitability now. I feel it too. Because the reality is, while there is this scenario in a vacuum where this ends up working out okay, we're not in a vacuum anymore. We've got so much perspective at this point in year 5 of the Scott Frost era that if this were happening in year 1, it'd be one thing, but it's happening in year 5. We do have that 5-21 in one possession game stat to throw in anyone's face. So it's sad. So I think that if you didn't watch this game yesterday, by the way, what I'm talking about is Nebraska's up 28-17, and they go for an onside kick, which I'm not a questioning play calling guy, but it just seemed absurd at the time. And it obviously didn't work out for him. And that was a shift that if you put a pinpoint in the flow of the box score from that point forward, there was nothing good that happened for Nebraska. They end up losing the game. But here's the thing. If we were to put up the box score, Colin, do you have the box score you can put up for me again? If we were to put this graphic up and you were to look at it and say, wow, Nebraska really dominated everywhere but the final score, it wouldn't change the outcome, but at least you would say, this is kind of a phantom result. There were a lot of positive things to take away from this game otherwise. That wasn't the case. If you watched this, Nebraska was the second most physical team on the field. Their offensive line struggled, defensive line struggled, wide receivers, crippling amounts of drops yesterday. You didn't even have to watch the whole game. Just pick a little 5-minute chunk. Chances are there was a critical Nebraska drop somewhere. So again, you had a situation where you've got Nebraska against a team that man for man, they outclass. And it did not matter at all. And this is a team that they beat by 1,000,000 last year, and it just didn't matter. So the sad reality, as I said, is there is a context where we could look at this game. We could say, now, let's not rush to judgment. But I could say, they had new everything. New pieces from the portal, new coaching staff. So it should take a little while to finally grease those wheels. They don't have time. The entire contingency, the entire predicate of having the opportunity for this season is it's thin ice, your blades are hot, you don't get the benefit of having that long runway that some other staffs would have in year 1 or whatever. So I heard a lot of people say, he needs the Oklahoma game to save his job, does Scott Frost. Scott Frost doesn't need the Oklahoma game to save his job. He needs the North Dakota game You know, he needs the Georgia Southern game. I don't know where in the world we slip into this trance of thinking that there are any layups or gimmies for Nebraska right now. They got to come home from Ireland and play a football game 6 days later, guys. So they've got North Dakota. Couldn't care less if it's a high school in Fargo. They've got to play a football game this Saturday. Then they got another one against, by the way, Clay Helton's Georgia Southern Eagles. Yow. So then Oklahoma comes in there. At the very least, yesterday had major ramifications, major every given Saturday tour ramifications. It just felt like a large chunk of the crowd that was willing to give it one more shot, and a large chunk of the crowd that's still behind Scott Frost evaporated. Everybody's hope that the Scott Frost era would turn around. Everyone's hope that eventually we planted the seed and we waited and waited and waited and finally it breaks ground. Everybody's hope was predicated on winning that game yesterday. They had to have that. There was no scenario where they lose to Northwestern and it still ends up scaling upwards. So I feel that just like you guys do. If I had to bet money on the coaching futures, no, I don't think Scott Frost will be there at the end of the year. The buyout, for the record, does drop at the beginning of October. So it's not the kind of show, it's not the kind of segment, if you've watched me, you know that I particularly enjoy doing, but it is reality. So we do have to talk about it.